We are joined at the desk by Brian Ortega, who does absolutely amazing work here at the network, and a man that is no stranger to the Greg Peterson Experience, and another man that is no stranger to the Greg Peterson Experience, Thom Cunningham, does great work over at runyourpool.com. And gentlemen, it is great to have you aboard. And Brian, I want to get your thoughts first because the nominations are now out for the Oscars/Academy Awards. Were there any real surprises with what we saw on them?
Oh, yeah. So I was actually very excited. Good to be here, Greg. Thank you so much again for having me back. To me, the biggest one was cinematography. Top Gun Maverick was not nominated, which everybody thought was going to be a shoo-in as their nomination for Top Gun Maverick. Also, Viola Davis was also skipped over for lead actress, which a lot of people thought she was going to get that last spot. And also Daniela Deadwyler, who was also not nominated for Best Actress as well. So a little bit of a shutout there, and also kind of a surprise was my girl, Ana de Armas, carrying the torch, which honestly doesn't matter because she's not going to win that category. But honestly, Blonde was not a very good movie, but I really liked Ana de Armas in it. I thought she did a good job. But those are just a couple of the things that I thought were sort of the snubs, the first half of that for sure.
Absolutely. And Tom, we'll throw it over to you. Were there any subs that you really identified with regards to what we saw from these nominations?
Yeah, I guess where do you start, really? But I'll go with the more important ones that I feel were important, at least. I thought Nope and She Said being left off Best Score, I thought that was a little harsh. The fact that She Said didn't really get anything in terms of nominations, that's a little bit concerning for me. Descendant being left off Best Documentary was a little concerning for me also. Now, I haven't seen a few of those documentaries that did get nominated, but I did think Descendant was one of the better movies I had seen all year, let alone documentaries. So I was a little irritated about that. But my biggest surprise was Judd Hirsch getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination for, if I'm being kind, he's probably in the movie for 7.5 minutes, at the most. I thought Tom Hanks from Elvis, Eddie Redmayne from The Good Nurse deserved nominations over Judd Hirsch. That's not taking anything away from Judd Hirsch. He was great in the movie, but I just thought there were more deserving nominees for Best Supporting Actor, even though it's Everything Everywhere All at Once to win that category. Still, I thought the nomination was a bit weak for Judd Hirsch.
Absolutely. I do think that it's very intriguing to take a look at those. And I mean, what else is very intriguing? I have to point out my sub here. Minions, The Rise of Gru got nothing. You guys need to explain to me how in the world this happened. It should have been nominated for, I don't know how many categories there are, but we'll throw out there an arbitrary number and we'll lowball and say it's 20. It should be even more than 20, but I felt like it should have been at least 20. Can one of you guys, we'll start with you, Brian, explain to me why in the world this movie is not nominated for 100 million billion awards and not just completely sweeping the Academy Awards?
Well, to give you a nice, level-headed response is that it is like a sequel to a sequel to a sequel, and sequels don't tend to do very well at the Oscars, so maybe that had something going against it. But actually, me saying that is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is a sequel of a sequel of a sequel, did get nominated.
What?
So maybe it was just the timing of when it came out. But there's actually quite a lot of very strong contenders. One being Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which actually is, I think the front runner in this particular category.
They've done Pinocchio 57 times.
I know, but Guillermo del Toro didn't do it. So that's the thing. And also, he's everybody's a really big fan of del Toro. So I think this is maybe his category to lose. But also, there's a lot of really good, nominees in this category, like Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. That's a tough one.
It got snubbed for A Shell with Shoes On.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me. That is just... I will throw it to you, Tom.
Here, Greg, with this, because Marcel was half animated. Only really 2 characters in the whole movie were animated. The rest was live action, which does include the settings of that film. So it's kind of like, would you nominate Who Framed Roger Rabbit for animated film? Probably not. Half of it's live action. So I do think there is that with Marcel, where I felt maybe you could have thrown in a Wendell and Wild instead for Best Animated Picture. For me, though, Greg, I'm going to be a little bit more harsh than Brian. I just didn't think it was a good movie.
What?
Minions. I have it kind of low in my animated market. Yeah. But I do think Pinocchio is going to win. It's actually the favorite with BetMGM right now, -750, to give you an idea of where everyone's head is at with Pinocchio. Greg, I'm also with you in the fact that this story has been repetitive. We had another Pinocchio come out this year on Disney Plus with Tom Hanks. We had an Italian version of Pinocchio come out 2 years ago that actually got nominated for best hairstyle, makeup, and best costume. So, I like originality and I like creativity, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards things like Turning Red and one movie that didn't get nominated, Apollo 10 and a Half, A Space Age Childhood. These are more unique and creative stories that I felt would have done a little bit better, but I understand why Pinocchio is going to win. As Brian mentioned, everyone loves Guillermo del Toro, so they're just going to give him the Oscar for this one.
And everyone loves Bob the Minion as well. We need to get Bob his Academy Award at some point. Hopefully we get another great Minions movie, and this time they actually recognize it. But we've got to recognize the pictures that are up there for Best Picture, which obviously is the biggest of the awards. And right now we're finding at DraftKings Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, it has become a runaway favorite. When we met up and we talked with you guys just before the holiday season, everything was plus money. That is starting to dry up. We have seen a few other ancillary awards come out. Now we've got the nominations, and Everything Everywhere All at Once is minus 200. The Banshees of Inisherin right around plus 225, and everything else, it's 10-1 or worse. Top Gun Maverick is at 10-1, which honestly I feel like is a little bit low, but I see where they're coming from there. Brian, any value for any of these movies other than Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yeah, actually, I really like Banshees of Inisherin at plus 225. I do agree that Everything Everywhere All at Once has this sort of steam to it at the moment. It also had the most nominations with 11 in this particular category, or in this particular Oscar season. The thing is, though, in the past, having the most nominations doesn't guarantee you winning Best Picture. For example, last year, Power of the Dog had all this momentum built really early in their campaign, and they ended up not winning. It ended up going to Coda. So if one of these movies, like for, say, Banshees of Inisherin, can actually get a little bit going, sort of at the BAFTAs, which I think it's going to clean up at. Also with the SAGs, they have a really great cast, but also the thing is Everything Everywhere All at Once also has a really fantastic cast as well. I might wait maybe for one award to come in, which would be maybe at the BAFTAs to kind of see where we're at. But not bad taking a shot on Banshees of Inisherin, but also preferential voting, for example, for movies like Top Gun might be in its favor, where a lot of people are sort of firing on Everything Everywhere All at Once as well as Banshees. So Top Gun might be in there at 10-1, but right now I just sort of sit and wait on the Best Picture category.
And I do think that that is very interesting. And how much does the fact that Top Gun was a little bit more of a summer movie hurt them in this category? Because I do notice that a lot of these movies that they win Best Picture, they're typically a little bit later on in the movie cycle rather than a movie that, I mean, let's call it what it is. A lot of people really like Top Gun. I love Top Gun. I know that a lot of my friends did as well, and it was one of those big hit movies, but at the same time, did the fact that it came out so early hurt them in this cycle?
I'm sorry, Brian. I don't think really it did, just because Everything Everywhere All at Once came out in March, I believe, and it's probably going to win Best Picture. Brian alluded to this last time we were on here. Though the later the movie comes out, the odds are, you're typically going to win Best Picture. For me, Top Gun Maverick just went up against a couple of beasts this year. The Banshees of Inisherin, The Fabelmans, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. And, for the past month and a half, we've come on here every Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it is, and I've said, Everything Everywhere All at Once, plus value, hit it. Well, now that's gone. So I honestly think if you just missed Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think it's going to win. I just kind of think you missed the boat in that market. And there's other value out there right now, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. But I consider this ship sailed if you miss Everything Everywhere All at Once. But if you do have some house money, I would go with Banshees, as Brian said. I think Top Gun is also a good choice. I would actually go with those two over The Fabelmans. So I'm with Brian in that. But I do think this ship has sailed for this market.
Yep, and then outside of your top four, then you're really taking a look at some long shots, like you got Avatar: The Way of Water, which apparently grossed a whole bunch of money, even though I know three people that have seen it. I have no idea how that works, but that said, it's sitting there at right around about 80-1. Tar is at 35-1, which Tar is a relatively underrated movie. I do like that as well.
I liked it.
All right, I liked it too. Good job, Greg. You have taste. Look at that.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Except they didn't give us the Minions Rise of Gru. But with that said, what we do have is some odds to be able to win Best Actor, Best Actress, and so much more. We're going to be diving into that next right here on the Greg Peterson Experience on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, being rejoined by Brian and Tom on the flip side. Great to be rejoined by Brian Ortega. Does amazing work over here at the network, and Thom Cunningham does a great job over at runmypool.com. And gentlemen, we took a look at Best Picture in the last segment. Now let's take a look at another big award, Best Director. And, well, a lot of the movies are up for Best Picture. Guess what? Best Director also there as well. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once with Daniel Kwan along Daniel Schneider. Hopefully I said that.
You could just say the Daniels.
Daniels. The Daniels. They are minus 140. And then Steven Spielberg, I know that. The Fablemans, that's at plus 110. And then Banshees of Inisherin, 12-1. Tar is at 20-1. And 50-1, Triangle of Sadness. Well, I think that might be a Triangle of Sadness if you bet on Triangle of Sadness. But, Brian, where do you stand in terms of Best Director? Because this one a little bit more tightly knit than Best Picture.
Oh, yeah. So, since this market opened, Steven Spielberg was the overwhelming favorite for a long time. But due to all of the steam from Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Daniels have skyrocketed to minus 140 at the moment, and now Steven Spielberg's at plus 110. I actually still like Steven Spielberg to win this particular award. I would actually recommend maybe firing on it now, just before we start getting into all these other awards. The biggest thing, though, is I think what's sort of weighing down this particular award is that the BAFTAs, which is coming out, the next big award, which is going to be February 19th, Steven Spielberg didn't receive a nomination, which is why his odds have come down to where they are currently. But I think the Oscars, which is sort of a different sort of voting pool, is really going to want to give him this award. So I would actually fire on, plus 110 for Steven Spielberg. Or if you want, I would just maybe wait a little bit, actually, now that I'm kind of thinking about it. Wait, let the BAFTAs happen, let the number kind of get a little bit higher, and then fire on it at that point. Because right now I think not enough value. It's sort of a tricky game, but that's what I would recommend. Because, again, I think the Oscars really want to give Steven Spielberg sort of his third Oscar for this particular film, for directing.
And, Tom, where do you stand on this? And also, what do you make out of the BAFTAs being something that is very important for taking a look at a lot of these awards as well, and just being able to find a little bit of value, and maybe it just dries up in terms of the value after the BAFTAs as well, because I think that that's a good indicator of who might be able to take this award.
Yeah, because the problem is if you wait till the BAFTA results and then the results are, kind of what you want, then the odds might not swing in your favor. I looked at the SAGs just from last year. That was my bread and butter, my moneymaker, with Jessica Chastain and Troy Kotsur winning there. Then the odds changed. So that's just kind of my award show that I look at. The SAGs, considering with the nominations for Best Supporting Actress and Best Actress, I think there's some value there. So I'm going to more look at the SAGs on the BAFTAs. I'm with Brian that I think Spielberg would be a good time to bet on him now, because I actually have the Dans as my best directors going through all the rankings and forecastings this year. And so I was a little irritated when Spielberg is the favorite all year, and then it switches when I'm getting ready to bet on the Dans for best director at plus value. Now it's Spielberg. So I'm actually not going to bet on this market just yet, best director. I'm with Brian. I'm going to wait. However, I liked the Dans, and now that they're minus value, I do feel like the ship has sailed for me for best director.
Yep, I can't blame you there. I do think that it's very interesting to take a look at this market. And then when it comes to the ones that we actually do see on the silver screen in terms of Best Actor, Best Actress, I think that it is fascinating because Brendan Fraser is right now the runaway for Best Actor. He was in The Whale at minus 165. Colin Farrell over at The Banshees of Inisherin plus 250. And then you've got Austin Butler at Elvis at 3-1, which Elvis, I thought, it didn't necessarily do the world's greatest in terms of box office numbers. I thought it was a relatively solid movie, though. I thought they did a solid job. Brian, where do you stand in terms of Best Actor?
Right. So the thing is with Brendan Fraser, so he was nominated for Best Actor, and also you do have his supporting actress who was in it as well, which is Hong Chu, which she was actually in the menu as well, which is actually kind of helping her in this particular race just because people saw her in the menu and now they saw her in The Whale and now they want to bet on her. The thing is, though, that's actually going to be, that's a different race for a different time. We'll talk about it in a second. But for Best Actor, Brendan Fraser's minus money right now, but could be in a little bit of trouble with Colin Farrell at plus 250, just because The Banshees of Inisherin is really sort of running off of this sort of steam it's getting by coming out on HBO Max, which I think is a metric you're going to have to look at going forward in the Oscars in the coming years of when you're actually released out on streaming, because it sort of gets you a second sort of boost or a little extra running time to sort of get out in front of all this. So I actually kind of looking at Austin Butler at plus 300 right now because I think everybody's sort of taking Brendan Fraser and Colin Farrell, and then Austin Butler also did win at the Globes. Also, I believe Priscilla Presley also passed away these past 2 weeks.
Yep.
Which might sort of drive it as well, which is unfortunate to look at it that way. But I would sort of just wait on this for a second, just because again I would wait somewhere close to the SAGs or even after the SAGs to bet on this, because again, for those of you not familiar, the SAGs are the Screen Actors Guild Awards, which primarily focus on the acting category.
And how would you take a look at this market? Because I do think that is interesting that you bring up the angle with Elvis, with the unfortunate passing of Miss Presley. But that said, it is one of those cases where I'm actually someone that collects sports cards. When a famous athlete would die, that's when your value would actually be the highest with regards to sports cards, which that's a very grim way of taking a look at it. Can we find that here with regards to this award? And I'll throw this out.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, you're good. I think you go to, if you want for Best Actor, that's fine. I think Austin Butler, if you want to look at it that way, that's fine. To each their own, really, when it comes to betting. But 3-1, I'm fine with Austin Butler. He was my Best Actor all year. I had him rated better than any other actor, so I'm perfectly fine taking him. Colin Farrell is good. For plus value, that's fine too. I just would not take Fraser at minus value. He was actually favored much more than minus 165. He was up to like 300 at one point this year. So he's come down. I would probably go with Farrell or Butler between the two, but I'm looking at Best Actress. That's the market with value. Andrea Riseborough has risen these last few months. She's 25-1 on BetMGM. I would take that now. She was already down to 11-1 on DraftKings, so there are people betting on her right now. And the reason I like her is because she was nowhere on the map, on the radar for Best Actress until late November, mid-December, right around Christmas. And Cate Blanchett is actually the ringleader who she's going up against for Best Actress for Tar. Cate Blanchett said everyone needs to look at Andrea Riseborough right now because this is the greatest performance I've ever seen on screen. So everyone kind of rushed to the movie To Leslie in January to watch Andrea Riseborough. And personally, I think she's the best actress this year. I had Cate Blanchett. I actually got Cate Blanchett plus 110 for Best Actress, like in August or September. And now I'm taking Andrea Riseborough 25-1. I think she presents the best value on the board. And going to the whole Steam comparison, in terms of Best Actress, she's picked up the most steam these last few months, as did Coda for Best Movie last year, as did Everything Everywhere All at Once this year. So I think if you're going to ride the Steam train, it's Andrea Riseborough Best Actress at 25-1 with BetMGM.
And I do think that taking a look at the Steam train is always so fascinating. And gentlemen, we've got a lot of awards that are now on the board. And I will throw this to you first, Brian. In terms of the awards that we have not touched upon yet, where are you finding the best value in terms of maybe one of these ancillary markets?
Certainly. So we have to actually cover one of the major markets, which is supporting actress, which actually totally changed today when we had, Stephanie So was nominated, which she's actually also in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is, everybody's ever seen that movie. She's basically like the second lead in that film. And she wasn't actually being pumped up for any of these awards or anything. It was Jamie Lee Curtis who was getting all of the push from the studio, which is A24, by the way, big studio to know if you're Academy Awards better. But she was nominated, and she's right now at 25-1 on DraftKings. I would fire on that right now because she's really going to get pumped up as we get closer and closer to the Academy Awards. I love her value at 25-1, which sounds crazy, but I think that's the shot to take right now. And I think Tom kind of feels the same.
And Tom, yep, we'll throw it to you. Yeah. What are you taking a look at in terms of a bet that might have value on the ancillary markets?
No, I'm exactly here with Brian. We talked about it during the commercial segment. We're both in agreement here. I actually had her as my #1 best supporting actress all year until Janelle Monáe. I thought Janelle Monáe, speaking of snubs earlier, I think she was another top snub. I thought she was the best supporting actress of any movie this year, except for Stephanie from Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I'm with you. I think 25-1, she's another person you take, and don't be surprised if she wins the SAG, and then her odds are in minus value the very next morning.
I think that's something really to take a look at, and it's going to be incredible to see what we get out of the Oscars this year. It was great to be joined by Brian Ortega here at the network, and also Thom Cunningham of RunYourPool.com to be able to take a look at it.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.